What are you talking about? Who are you? How did you get here? My name is Jessica Harrow. I'm a Reaper, and you're a soul. What are you talking about? That doesn't make any sense. I'm right here. Today on the Comic Book Report, Grimm, Book 1 by Stephanie Phillips and Flaviano from Boom Studios. Stick around and check it out. Greetings everyone, my name is Dominic and today you're tuning in to the Comic Book Report, where we review comic books and graphic novels so you can get an idea of what to read. And today I'm back in the world of Boom Studios, taking a look at an oversized hardcover edition they sent my way. A huge thank you to those at Boom for sending over this review copy. That's right, we're looking at Grimm today, Book 1, which I believe is the first half of this series. Grimm is a dark fantasy series following an eclectic group of characters who many of which happen to be Reapers, kind of like the Grim Reaper. Anyway, I have a lot of thoughts about this collection, but before we jump in, I'd also like to just shout out our channel sponsor, Panelbound Comics. As always, if you're looking to pick up your own comic book collected editions, I highly encourage you to check out their website. You can find a link to them in the video's description, and if you see anything site-wide you like, you can actually use my discount code at checkout, The Comic Book Report, to save $2 off of your order. Please note if you use my affiliate link or code to make a purchase, I will earn a small commission, but it's a fantastic way to support this channel. Thank you so much for considering. Now let's get started with today's review. First, some quick facts about today's collection. The issues in this volume were written by Stephanie Phillips, with art by Flaviano. The issues in this volume were published by Boom Studios beginning in 2022. This volume itself collects Grimm, issues 1 through 15. And finally, this is an oversized hardcover edition with what might be a glued binding and a total of 384 pages. At this time, I'd like to go ahead and issue a general spoiler warning. I will be flipping through the contents of today's collection and commenting on plot points throughout. You've been advised. Okay, and here's our first dedicated look at the front cover for today's hardcover, and apologies, my camera quality doesn't quite pick up the black and red subtlety here. Suffice it to say, it is a very beautiful cover. We have our lead protagonist here, Jessica Harrow, within a kind of scythe arc, which I liked. Below that, we have some of the creators, we have the title of the work, of course, Grimm, and then we have Book 1. Like I said, I think that there will be a Book 2 that will wrap up this series, if I'm not mistaken, so I think this is roughly half of the run. On the spine now, a little bit of a better contrast, we have the Boom Studio logo up top, the title Grimm, some of the creators down below, and then at the very bottom we have Book 1. I really like the spine design for this. I like that we have the specialized font retained. I like that we retain the color scheme as well. It's on a field of black. Some of the writing is in a red font, the other is in white, which I liked. I think this is a really crisp looking spine, and overall it looks quite good on a bookcase. I want to note as well, in case it's not abundantly clear, this does not have a slipcase or a dust jacket on it. It is just the hardback book itself, at least with my edition. I think they might have released a slipcase if I'm not mistaken, but at any rate, this is just the regular deluxe hardcover. On the back of this, as you've been seeing, we do have a spiralized pattern and some of the little Reaper symbols. We have the Boom Studios logo, pricing information, age rating, and all things like that. A pretty stark back of collection, but honestly, I really like the design work. Okay, and now for all you prospective collectors out there, just a quick look at this book's binding. I mentioned earlier that it might be glued, there might be some sewing happening as well. I will say the binding for me does have a nice eye, the page is laid down fairly flat, but I think the glue is a bit light. I am a little nervous about the longevity of the binding, just personally. This is after one reading, and while the binding is still intact, but further readings might have to be done delicately. Again, unclear if this was just my copy or if the whole batch has lighter glue like this. Again, still intact after one reading. And now, in case you're wondering why I have my copy of Man's Best here, I wanted to do a couple of shots giving you a size comparison. When I say that this is an oversized hardcover, what exactly does that mean? Well, it stands as tall as the other Boom oversized hardcovers, which is a bit taller than an omnibus even, but you can see here next to a standard size trade paperback, also from Boom Studios. That's right, it's Man's Best. I did read and review this. I'm unclear which review of these I'm going to release first, so if this looks interesting to you, definitely stay tuned if I haven't released it already. But as you can see, me, this book, Grimm, is bigger in every respective dimension, and overall I really do like the size. Particularly how it showcases the incredible art we have in this collection from Flaviano, which you will see more extensively as we flip through momentarily. In fact, let's go ahead and start in on today's book. Alright, and as we make our way in past this front cover, we do have some beautiful red end pages, followed by a title page, and then a 2-page spread that again shows us the title, list of creators, we also have publication information, things of that nature, and after that we jump right into the first issue. So how this thing is mapped is predictable as 1 through issue 15. We do have chapter breaks here, where we have chapter 1 corresponding to issue 1, we do have the issue cover reproduced, which I love to see, so you do have these nice breaking points between the issues, you know right where you are, and the fact that it shows you which chapter or issue number you're on, it's just a great way to be able to index your favorite scenes and know exactly where you are within the read. Okay, and as we go into the actual story or story synopsis for this review, let me just give you a bit about what Grimm is about. Now, this is a spoiler review, so I will be talking kind of extensively on certain plot points. I will be spoiling things in this review, like I do with a lot of my reviews. But essentially, Grimm is the story of a society of reapers. Think Grim Reapers, people that ferry souls from one place to another after they pass away or die. In this world, there appears to be many reapers, with the head poobah, so to speak, being the Grim Reaper of sorts, and there's a whole government or hierarchy or structure to these Reapers. There's kind of a pecking order, and it's just a really interesting little sub-society here. This book does follow our main protagonist, which I talked about earlier, Jessica Harrow. She is a Reaper who, at the beginning of this book, is trying to ferry one of these souls who has recently deceased and kind of bring him into the next place. She tries to ferry him across a river and into the unknown. Well, he decides that he doesn't want to go quietly, and all sorts of antics ensue. We have this Reaper, Jessica, have her own scythe that gets taken at one point. She seems to be able to relate with these souls and even with living people in a way that other Reapers do not. And there's a lot of things that are just kind of anomalous about this character. As we go further into their society and meet some of her colleagues and friends who are fellow Reapers, we find out that Jessica is really the only situation where she has no memory of her life prior to becoming a Reaper. Nearly everyone else, in fact everyone else, remembers their life before, their previous life, before they died and then took up this vocation. Because of this, we have this kind of interesting intrigue or central mystery as to why that way may be. Well, she's kind of given a line that she was traumatized in the way she died, so her memories were maybe altered or taken, perhaps, or something like that. Her colleagues are pretty fun. We follow them for the rest of this series, or at least this first half, I can speak to for sure. And what's kind of fun about this is because it's after they were alive, some of these people are displaced from the timeline as far as some of them passed away at earlier decades or centuries or what have you, and I really like that. There's a kind of weird timeless quality to this afterlife situation they pose, and the characters are all pretty likable, I should say. At the top of the hierarchy at this point, the Grim Reaper is kind of gone or missing, and there's a new kind of leader that oversees everything that, let's just say, doesn't always get along with Jessica in the way that she does things. Well, as we kind of pinball back and forth between misadventures in the world of the living and in this kind of underworld vocational space, we kind of begin to slowly unravel some of these bigger mysteries. We find out that Jessica Harrow is actually the daughter of the Grim Reaper, and they go on a quest to find him after some more hijinks ensue, let's just say that, and we find that he is camped out on a kind of self-imposed house arrest in Las Vegas. We have this other creature that represents death basically loosed, and it's basically him versus the Grim Reaper in this kind of epic final showdown. The Grim Reaper is killed after trying to save his daughter Jessica, and Jessica is sort of bequeathed his scythe, the scythe of the Grim Reaper. This completely upends things that are going on in this kind of underworld space, and there's also kind of the ramifications that without this death figure, people are not dying how they ought to, and that leads to all sorts of havoc on Earth. We're introduced to a trio of characters that are sort of the Greek or Roman myths of the fates, kind of holding out the fate string and cutting and things like that. There's sort of these interesting oracle figures. I thought that those characters were, I think, well utilized overall, I should say, and we're introduced to a lot of these other kind of higher upper echelon kind of reapers or figures in the spiritual realm. And yeah, it's up to basically Jessica and team to try to stop everything that is unraveling with the cycle of life and death. We also have a sub-story following her mom, who's released from, I believe, prison or some kind of facility. She's confronted by this spiritual embodiment of life. What Grim Reaper is to death, this guy is, I guess, presumably to life. And he tries to ensnare her in some kind of deal, and she wants to have nothing to do with it, and she has a really cagey relationship to the fact that she is a mother. Anyway, we start to get a lot of these layers. One of her colleagues is taken. There's a lot of betrayal. We get to see a lot of those different, we get to see the bureaucracy of the Reapers, I should say, and we get to see some corporate betrayal and things that have really big impacts and ramifications. Again, I don't want to spoil every single little nuance of this. There's a lot of great twists and turns, conflict buildup, and resolution in part, and everything kind of paves the way into the end of this first half, which I will just say again, ends with just utter havoc, especially for the people of the earth and everything going on in that spiritual realm. I'm really eager to see what happens, or curious to see what happens to resolve this entire story. Certainly the stakes have never been higher by the end of this, but you do feel like you got a pretty solid arc or two, while there's still an ongoing story to come. You definitely at 15 issues get a good bang for your buck in this hardcover, especially in this gorgeous oversized edition. Switching a bit to the art in the collection from Flaviano, I just think it's absolutely gorgeous. It's immersive, it's engrossing, and the coloring is so vibrant it just pops from every page. And that's something I'd actually like to commend Boom Studios for in general. I feel more often than not the coloring and the ink and the print quality on a lot of their hardcovers is absolutely incredible. It's so high saturated in the best possible way. I know I can say that for other collections I've read in their oversized line, things like Klaus or Something is Killing the Children, or what's another good one, Once in Future. I think Boom Studios also did The Many Deaths of Layla Starr. All of these collections were just so great and poppy with the color, and I can absolutely see that here as well. This is a visual treat that really makes the most of that oversized format. The writing as well was pretty stellar from Stephanie Phillips. I've read maybe a little bit from her in the past, but this was really sharp. I thought the dialogue was really dialed in. It was intensely character driven. The kind of ensemble cast of characters I also thought was very effective overall, and I was engaged. This was a real page turner. It was very well paced, especially as the stakes kept mounting, both on Earth and in that other realm. Overall, a really intriguing premise that I think had a pretty solid execution. While this dark fantasy series might be more recommended for mature readers, I do think that there was still a story to tell. At the back of the collection, as you've been seeing, we do have a good handful of extras, including a lot of character models and artistic-based extras, which for such an art-centric book for me, I really enjoyed seeing. We also have kind of thumbnailed versions of a lot of these covers, and then we have kind of about the creators, and we even have little animations or sketches of the different creators as Reapers, which I thought was kind of novel and fun, and that really brings us to the end of this collection. Again, this is one of Boom Studios' oversized hardcover editions. This is Grim Book 1, definitely an engaging read, one I have thought about often since completing it, and I was happy to review it today for all of you. And now all that's left to do is to give it a grade. For this artistic gem of a book, the Comic Book Report is happy to give Grim Book 1 by Stephanie Phillips and Flaviano from Boom Studios a B. I would certainly consider this an above average read that, while it might not be for everyone, for fans of kind of grittier dark fantasy with beautiful art, it is one to consider. I think that this really had some solid storyline building, a cast of really rich characters, again, beautiful art, can't emphasize that enough, and I'm interested to see where this resolves in the back half. But as always, these are just a couple of my thoughts on today's collection. I would love to hear some of yours. Have you been following Grim from Boom Studios? Are you a fan of Stephanie Phillips or Flaviano? Do you have any other recommendations from these creators or from this publisher? I'd love to hear all about that in the comments below, along with what you thought about today's review. Again, I just want to extend a huge thank you to those at Boom Studios for sending over this review copy in exchange for this honest review, and to all of you for taking this journey with me. Until next time, this has been the Comic Book Report. Please don't forget to leave your like, those comments we talked about, and maybe check out another one of my videos on your way out. Thanks, bye.